Welcome to Dental All Stars. I'm Alex Nottingham, founder and CEO of All Star Dental Academy, and with me is Shelly VanEpps, COO and lead coach at All Star Dental Academy. And we are talking about everything phone skills. What did you say? Something about the ring? What was that comment you made?
About the ring.
It's all about the ring. It's all about the ring. All right. So I have Facebook open, Facebook Live. I think we're also on LinkedIn as well live. And so we'll kind of as the comments come along, we'll start discussing phone skills and the comments. So while we're waiting for that, Shells, tell us about why phone skills so important. Because we actually, before you say, we did a poll. We want to say, what do you want to talk about? And everybody wants to talk about phones. So I guess they know something
I
as
guess
well.
so. Yeah. I mean, phones are your entry point. If you don't answer the phones properly, you have no patience. So it's kind of critical that we focus on the phones. And that's one of the starting points with All Star is it's all about the phones. We are a phone conversion company. I mean, that's not the only thing we do, but that is a primary focus. One of the things that we do, you can't do anything else that we do until you convert patients over the phone. And so any potential caller is an opportunity. And when the team member doesn't see that as the case, there's an issue. And I'm guilty. There were times when I'd be super busy in the practice and the phone would ring and I would think, oh my gosh, just stop ringing already. I need to get my job done. And then somebody politely reminded me, Shelly, or in your way, Shells, if the phone stops ringing, then we're going to have a real issue here because then you're not going to have a job at all. And so that kind of was an aha moment for me a long time ago, a long time ago. When it was one of those things where I thought, oh my gosh, you're right. I do need to be appreciative that this phone is ringing and not look at it as a distraction. Yeah.
Yeah. And just kind of talking about the part of the genesis of All Star with Heather Nottingham, our co-founder. And well, I'll just tell you quickly for those who don't know, I'll be like, now you know this story, but we'll hear it again. Imagine how many times I've heard it. So with the story, my dad is a dentist. His practice was facing financial trouble. I was a Tony Robbins coach, lead coach. I had my MBA, my law degree, because my father said, don't be a dentist, be be a lawyer or business person, because they're the ones who make money, not dentists. Because he was frustrated with insurance companies, with corporate dentistry, which are still a problem to this day. That was there. And I was taking over his marketing. We are getting a ton of phone calls, but they weren't converting. And so Heather, my wife, our VP of training, eventually our phone skills instructor, co-founder, she was working for Bloomingdale's. She, just so you know, she was studying molecular biology. She wanted to do on medicine, but she loved fashion. And I supported her just to do fashion. And she was great. She had $1 million client book in Bloomingdale's, and she was training people at other great companies like Kate Spade and Theory, but the hours weren't great. So I said, why don't you work for my dad? Because I'm sending business, but they're not converting. So we brought her into the practice and she was shocked. No systems. The phone was not important. When you're in retail, you love the phone. You want clients. Heather would have patients, or not patients, but her clients would call her and say, I want, I don't know, $10,000 worth of clothes laid out for me. I'm coming in there and they buy it. People with these, black cards, whatever. So she dealt with a high level clientele. So she's like, phones are incredible. Your client list is incredible. What are you doing? So she says, all right, let me handle the phones. You don't have to worry about it. Send them to me, but leave me alone. Don't bother me. So we took a struggling $1 million practice and brought it to 2.4 million within 18 months. Yes, the marketing was important. The phone was ringing. I did that. But what Heather did was superb. And from that experience, we use what she did, built our great call process. And that was kind of the beginning of All Star. Phones was the portal of success. And Heather made sure that was a priority.
It's scary. It's actually scary. We do some different call grading and different things, within All Star, and we use the great call process to be able to monitor that and measure success. And it's scary, some of the phone calls that are out there, and doctors may not have any idea that when somebody is answering their phone, they're not even saying the practice name. It's like dental office, please hold. and placing them immediately on hold, not welcoming them, not telling them who they even called specifically, their name, asking for the person's name, who do I have the pleasure of speaking with, like skipping it all. Everything that we teach is just completely gone, not in the phone call at all. And then they wonder, why is my schedule empty? Why don't I have any patients? Why is everybody canceling? You know, all these different things. And I'm like, we need to look back at the phones. And it really, truly, our marketing companies, our partners, I mean, Patrick with Omni Premier, he'll tell you, oh my gosh, I can, like you did for your dad's practice, I can send people to a practice, but if they're not converting, that's when doctors get frustrated, and we have to look back at the phones. And so it's so, so important. And that's why we're here to talk about it today.
Absolutely. And I think no wonder we understand and sympathize with them, like where
Mhm.
they're coming from. But because and we talked about this in one of our program with the rubber band, is we're comfortable what we're comfortable for. You can't fault people for following what they know, and it's a distraction. I don't want to do more work. We did a whole discussion about buy-in that leads in there as well. We were talking about this. Like, there's a lot of elements that happen when we see this. There's a reason it's there. We want to change course. So the first most important thing to realize is it's important, right, Shelly? It's important. And why is it important? So one is dentists will hear the phone call and go and kind of cringe, like that's not how it should go. That's one issue. And then others, they might say they're nice on the phone, but you have to look at we're converting. Now, this is very important. Critical. What we teach at All Star is we use a service mentality, not sales. So we want to convert the phone call without manipulating. And so that's our premise. That's what we teach. But we have to also realize the cost of when we don't convert a phone call, what it's costing. And we do a whole math. We do a webinar, allstardentalacademy.com/webinar. I'm not going to go into the math here, but in there I explain what it's costing you. And I'll tell you, all these broking appointments and lack of conversions, you're looking at $250,000 a year. I'm giving it away, but you'll see how I did the math in the webinar. The point is, it's costing you money. And that shows it. So now we see kind of part of the issue. You want to say something, it sounds like.
No, I'm good. I'm
You're like,
good.
this
Go
is
for it.
good. This is good stuff. It's
Really good stuff.
expensive. It's
It's true.
expensive. And I know what you say over and over again. Show me the money. Let me see your KPIs as coaching. You're a lead coach. So what are the KPIs saying? And you're getting crushed because you're not converting patients. So we know we have to do something about it. So we better like it. And that's what we're all about at All Star is how do we enjoy, how do we like phone skills, how do we get better at phone skills? So while we're talking, I just want to say this for those on Facebook and LinkedIn. Let us know some questions that you like to hear about phones. I know if our phone skills instructor is watching us and she
Uh-oh.
approves so far of what we're saying, but I want to hear from everybody here on there. What are some things you want to hear us talk about with phones? We'll ramble along about phones. I know you want to learn about phones. So
I mean, there's so many different types of phone calls. And that's why I think a lot of team members get really intimidated, because when that phone is ringing inward into the practice, I mean, it could be, do you take my insurance? It could be, I broke a tooth. It could be, I need to cancel an appointment. It could be I'm a new patient. I'm new to the area, all these different things. And you almost have to feel like you have to be prepared for anything that could possibly come at you. You know, I have a bill, I'm mad. And so a lot of team members are afraid to answer the phone out of fear of not having an answer. What I like to do in utilizing the great call process that Heather so graciously put together for all of us is build rapport. It's the most important part. Find out more about that person. If you focus on the relationship, then you can help them. You might not know the answer, and that's completely okay. But you can gather enough information to be able to help that person at least get in the right hands. So that's what a lot of like hygienists and assistants, they say, I have no business answering the phone. Why? Why not? Because I don't know how to answer the questions. Okay, well, let's talk about that. Who on your team does know how to answer that question? Shelly does. Okay, well, how about you gather the information and then transfer it to Shelly then? Well, I could do that? Yes, you can. I'll show you how. And therefore, the patient isn't automatically getting sent to voicemail or being placed on hold immediately. The hold button is my pet peeve. It just makes me cringe. Have you ever listened?
Please hold.
Right. Have you ever listened to one of those phone calls? I do this in some of my coaching calls when I'm talking. I'm like, okay, so when we're talking about how long it feels to a person when you put them on hold, and I sit there and I count, and I just
How long?
count to 30. Like, how long did that feel? Everybody on Facebook Live is going, did I just stall? Like, did we have a glitch in the software? Like, what just happened there? That's how long they're just sitting there wondering,
Right.
did they forget about me? What's going on? And so I have a pet peeve with the hold button. I wish it didn't exist. There's only one kind of a phone call that I'm okay with that hold button, and that's when they're trying to cancel on me.
Then you make them hold.
That when I get to hold, and it's when I'm going to find out what the doctor would like us to do about getting that person rescheduled, or to get the information from the doctor about how to reschedule that person or whatever. Not really going to get the doctor, but that's the only hold that I try to do as much as possible.
So I have a question from the Facebook audience, and that's,
Okay, let's
how
go.
do you train team members that are nervous about the phone role play? Well, it could be a couple things. One of the ways, let me just set it up for you that we understand here. First is identifying the problem. We talked about that in the webinar, allstardentalacademy.com/webinar. We talk more about this. We identify the problem, then we have to learn the material. And it's pretty, what we teach is pretty straightforward. Service, not sales. We have a nice acronym, GREAT, that stands for greeting, rapport, engage the patient, ask for the appointment, take information. And we even give you a little free gift on the webinar that helps you with that. So now the next step is, okay, you know it academically. Do you know it? Let's start role playing. Let's hear a live call. Let's grade a live call. We grade live calls, not mystery calls. We do it in a very gentle way. But we find you may be nice on the phone, but once you're like, talk, because it's almost like public speaking when you're put on the spot. Role play for me. Answer the phone call.
It's awkward, especially in front of your peers. It
Sure.
can be uncomfortable.
Sure.
And the law of the rubber band is one thing. You could really push team members and say, no, you're going to role play. They're going to get nervous. They're not going to take it seriously. They're probably going to be giddy and giggling.
You know what? I like where you're going with this, Shelly, with the rubber band mentality. I think that's a good analogy.
That's what it's about. You got to stretch a little bit. You've got to go a little bit out of your comfort zone. I'll tell you, we were at our mastery event in Chicago, and a lot of level 2 is role play. Nobody wanted to do it. Day one, everybody was like digging their heels in, going, I don't want to role play this particular verbal skill. I just don't want to do it. Nobody's volunteering. Very few were volunteering. By day 2, they were like, ooh, can I go first? And I remember one of our coaches in one of the breakout sessions, I'll call her out, Larissa did this. It was amazing.
Go, Larissa.
Yes, go Larissa. There was one team member who really was uncomfortable. I mean, you would have thought she was going to start crying. She was extremely uncomfortable with the particular situation. She just didn't want to role play in front of a bunch of people. Larissa said, you know what? Stay behind. We'll role play just the two of us. That is okay if you don't do this as a full team. It's okay to pull one person aside and say, all right, let's practice within your comfort zone. Listen to your own calls and grade yourself. Get a feel for self-assessment. If you're afraid of other people's assessment of you, assess yourself first. Start there. Then once you start seeing, okay, I'm getting it, practice it out loud, practice it, record yourself, listen back. I don't care, whatever it takes, but you need practice. Nobody goes about this perfect from day one. Not even you, Alex. No, not even Alex.
Day one, not even the great Alex.
Perfect phone call answer.
Oh,
no,
perfect.
Everybody makes mistakes. I did it for 20 some years and I make mistakes.
I'm so good at phone skills. I'm so good at phone skills and client services. I'm not allowed to speak with any potential members. It's only later in the conversation.
nobody. I mean, Heather would make mistakes on occasion.
Heather
I'm
does not
sure.
make mistakes. No,
Heather does not make mistakes.
no,
Heather is on here. Heather is perfect. She does this
she is. She does not
beautifully.
make mistakes. Nope.
She makes opportunities for growth. That's what
Well,
it is.
I want to build on.
Acknowledgement.
I want to build on this rubber band. We talked about this in one of our Alex and Shelly shows that we do, and I think it's a great analogy to do. So before I get to the rubber band, Heather's point is very important about, or critical, about the nervous person on the phone, because what that has to do is, and then I have another question that came in. So what that has to deal with is our approach to training. We understand that most people are nervous when it comes to role playing, to something new, which goes to the law of the rubber band. We're stretching ourselves beyond what we're comfortable with, going above our comfort zone. So we at All Star understand this. We're very sensitive to this. That's why in our program that we teach, our online training program, we give an action plan of how to do that. And we want gently, we give gentle ideas. And we'll talk about that of how to implement. Coaching is another way of helping because a coach can help with implementing. But it's important. That's my new word of the day. Important.
New word.
It's my new word. That with the team, so we talked about how the value of training and so on, that with the team, they feel held in a space, because sometimes other programs and doctors just get really excited about it. Even with our program, we say, don't do this. Is they come in, we're gonna be doing it, and they're not scared as much because you're used to being abused, I guess, and criticized in dental school. Is they come in, I love this, and I did the program, and I know the stuff, and we're gonna do it. You go. And like, first of all, you're a dentist, you're a power position, and it's very intimidating. And so, and I think dentists kind of fall on a spectrum. They're too aggressive or they don't want to engage their team at all. We talked about buying and so on. So we have to just explain that feedback is important, learning is critical, and that's what we're going to do. So we want to set things up properly. And like you talked about, once we set the stage, then it is like you were saying, there are ways to incrementally improve. Law of the rubber band is that what you teach, Shelly, is if you stretch, you don't want to stretch too far or too little. A little bit of stretch, you grow. And I think you have to meet your team with where you're at. So tell me, Shelly, for those that are nervous, give me some examples. What have you done with the team as a coach to help ease them into role playing?
Yeah. So one thing is not having to look at the other person in the face. So in our office, we actually had phones in different areas. And so I would literally call them, this patient, and they would be in the consultation room and I would be this patient, and then they would do something a little off from what we were aiming for. And I'd say, okay, now I'll stop right there. How is it? What do you think about how that conversation just went? And they're like, yeah, I messed up. I'm like, okay, so how would we do it different? They would just say it in a conversation. I'm like, perfect. Let's do it again. And we'd hang up and I'd call them back again. And we just sat there and role played it that way. It was more comfortable for my team members to not have to face me for whatever reason, even if I'm sometimes putting your backs to each other and doing it. Because when you're in a group, especially a group of people who enjoy each other, they tend to start to goof around a little bit and have some fun, which that's fine. That's good to have some fun while you're doing it. I mean, I've had different people put on costumes, right? I remember I hosted something in my living room, and every team member, we had wigs and we had scarves and glasses, and we role played and we practiced. And actually not calling it role play goes a long way. Calling it
Wow.
skills practice. Dr.
Ooh,
David Pierce said that one time, and I've always just called
I
it
like that.
practice. It's like you don't go into the game without practice first. You don't go into the game without a strategy, a playbook. The playbook is a great call process. You practice the great call process first, and then you go into the game. You go on stage. And so it's one of those things where putting that into analogy for the team and saying, hey, we don't expect you to do this perfect without practice. We don't. Everybody needs practice. People who have been doing it for years should still go back and practice. Michael Jordan still practiced when he was at his prime. Everybody needs to do it. Because if you don't, you start to fall into entropy, which is falling back into old habits. And so when that starts to happen, all of a sudden you're using vocabulary and words that you used to use before you knew better, just out of comfort. This becomes a new norm, and all of a sudden it's beautiful. It's like butter. You
It's
just
like
make
butter.
it's like butter. You just can be very smooth and have that process down. So
Next question, Shelly.
yeah.
How
What
can the
else we got?
phone verbiage help the entire team?
Oh my gosh, I love this. This is one of our top questions. Why do my hygienists have to listen to this thing about the phone skills? Why do my assistants need to listen to it? Number one, they can act as a backup on the phones. Like that's pretty important that they're able to do that and they're comfortable doing it. But I want you guys who are thinking that to think about your patient experience. When they walk through the door, Alex, what is the first thing we do?
Greet them.
We greet them. What's the G in the great call process?
Greeting.
Greet them. Exactly. Then when we take them back into the treatment area, what do? Hopefully we're building some rapport. Then we're engaging with them. We're asking them to schedule an appointment. We're taking their information or taking their money or thanking them for coming. We're doing the great call process every time a patient comes in. And so it's so important for the team to listen to this whole process and really take it into, what is my part in this patient experience? How do I walk out to the reception area and call my patient back? Do I walk up there and go, Alex, and turn around and take off before you've even gotten up out of your seat? Or do I walk out with a smile on my face? Hey, Alex, nice to see you. Come on back. I've been looking forward to seeing you today. You're happy. That nonverbal goes so far. The tone, all of the things that we teach with what we say on the phone. They can't see you on the phone. They can see that face that some people, one of my best friends, she called it her thinking face. She maybe she's watching, but it was that face. We all know the face of the person that you don't want to go up and talk to because you think they're mad at the world. And she was like, no, that's her thinking face. And I was like, okay, well, stop thinking then, because everybody in the team and the patients are scared of you right now. You have to have a smile on your face.
Is that why sometimes I say, Shelly, what's that face? You go, I'm thinking.
Maybe I caught, all right, Peggy, if you're out there, I've caught the thinking face, evidently.
Yes.
No, it's one of those things that just goes a long way. You have to have a smile on your face. You have to be welcoming and enjoy having those people and build relationships with them. People want to come and see their friends. And they want to be known when they come into your practice. They want to, when you check in, don't say checking in, say, hi, Alex, nice to see you. I'll make sure to let Betty know that you're here today or that you're here. She'll be right out for you. Grab a water, help yourself to some coffee. The restroom's over here. Like, give them a mini tour of your office. Make sure they feel comfortable, like they just showed up at your home, right? They just showed up at my home and I'm greeting them. I'm welcoming them in with open arms. Come on in. There's the restroom. How many of you have had a patient get there? They wait in the waiting room for 5 minutes or whatever. And then as soon as you go to call them back, what's the first thing that they need to do? I need to use the restroom. So if the admin team just kind of took that a little initiative to say, if you need to use the restroom before they call you back, here you go. Otherwise, the patient just sits there twiddling their thumbs going, I don't want to go anywhere.
And I think what you're speaking to is just this. I learned this from Tony Robbins. Constant and never ending improvement. And this is what we believe here at All Star and everything with these podcasts, why we keep pushing out podcasts, our online training, our webinars, our coaching, our events, everything we do is this constant and never ending improvement. And I think that's what the theme here is, why phones are so important, why we're always, the rubber band you talk about is we're constantly stretching, we're constantly improving. And that's something that we do as a community. That's something we need to raise people up to continue. Come on, let's go. Let's put a smile on our face. Let's work. So Shelly, great stuff. We can spend hours on this. I appreciate Facebook for giving us so many great comments to talk about great, of course, the GEREGREAT, our great call process. And to learn more about the great call process, we have a webinar that we do, allstardentalacademy.com/webinar. We'll teach you the entire great call process. We'll give you a bonus cheat sheet you can take home and you can use. So definitely check that out. And also, let's have some conversations. Comment on Facebook, on social media, wherever you hear, or if you're listening, obviously you can't do that drive. But if you're watching, comment and let me know how you're using the phones or any questions you have about phone skills. You, Shelly, Heather, our entire team are happy to respond, and we can have a conversation and learn together on phone skills and practice management. So
Absolutely.
thanks for joining Shelly VanEpps, COO and lead coach at All Star Dental Academy. And until next time, go out there and be an all
No.
star.